Hi. I have a big opinion about superhero films that uh, could seem odd, but I do feel the need to express it because it is something I do feel strongly about. What I really mean is, I feel like if uh, the people working on superhero films need to make really big changes for the story they want to tell that don't match up to the comics much at all, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I feel like superhero films are very much a different thing than superhero comics, a different genre of telling stories. And I feel like people working on superhero films should be able to make about as many changes as they want from the comics in order to make the films work. I think that um, following the comics exactly puts limitations and it could put restrictions on the superhero films, prevent them from being as good as they can be. I feel like superhero films don't need to be like panels from the comics brought onto the big screen. I feel like they don't need to do storylines from the comics. Like for a while, it was fun to think of like, oh, a popular comic storyline getting adapted in animated film or even being in a live action film. But at this point, I feel like I feel like I don't want superhero films to use comic storylines. I feel like I want them to go their own interesting direction. And I feel like big changes are not a bad thing. Two of my favorite superhero films are the Batman films directed by Tim Burton, and there's a lot of changes. The Joker, being the guy that got rid of Bruce Wayne's parents, that's a huge change. But it was a great change. It worked well for the film, and if anything, it's more interesting than the comics version where Joe Chill, a random guy with very little personality, being the guy to get rid of the Waynes. It feels a lot more personal and interesting to have the Joker be the one to do it. Like, that's a great change. Giving Joker a backstory, that's pretty big, and it worked for the film. And to be fair, I think it was inspired by The Killing Joke, but I feel like The Killing Joke implied some stuff, wasn't a confirmation what Joker's origin is. Where in Tim Burton's Batman, I feel like it just is his origin in that, and it worked. Batman's costume is much different, and normally I don't like the blue and gray being changed, but how it looks in Tim Burton's films looks fantastic. I love it. And I love a similar style being brought when Michael Keaton came back in The Flash. Um, the two Joker films, the films that Todd Phillips directed, star Joaquin Phoenix, much different from the comics, have almost nothing to do with the comics. And they're fantastic films. They're brilliant. They feel like some of the most clever and different comic book based films that there's ever been. And I think that's great. I think it shows that they don't need to follow the source material exactly. They can do their own interesting thing, and it's wonderful. Uh, the whole Arthur Fleck thing and implying that Arthur and Bruce could be half brothers, stuff like that. It's fascinating. It's groundbreaking. It's brilliant. I love it. What's done with Arthur, just such a fantastic character, and I feel like if the Joker films followed the comics, I feel like they would have such limitations, wouldn't be nearly as good or nearly as compelling or stand out nearly as much. I feel like superhero films really don't need to follow the comics too heavily in order to succeed because I feel like there's a lot of people who have a favorite superhero that they haven't read a single comic of. Like, I think there's people that love a lot of the Marvel characters that became a fan of the characters because of the Marvel Cinematic Universe and have never read a comic and don't even know what the comic versions are like. And I think there could even be some people that love Batman Superman because of the film and or show and don't know that much about the comics, and I think that's okay. And I think having some tributes to the people that wrote the comics, that is great. I think that's important. And having a few little references in the background just for comic fans, I think that's okay. But I feel like the stories, uh, the personalities of the characters, stuff like that, I feel like that stuff can be changed in order to make something great and something amazing.